You guys, welcome to Sick of Pricks, a type 2 diabetes podcast. I'm Mary, your diabetes bestie. And today we're talking about one of the sneakiest traps that exists when it comes to improving our diabetes management, and that is the comparison game. It's when you're feeling really good about your day. Maybe you got in a workout, you ate a salad, you didn't forget your meds, you checked your blood sugar, and then boom, out of nowhere, you check Instagram and you see someone who's celebrating their reversal journey. They're off their medication, their A1C is 5.2, and they only eat like fermented kale while gratitude journaling at the break of dawn, right? And then suddenly your brain starts to play this loop of shame. Like, I should be doing more. Am I behind? Why is this taking so long? Should I be getting up earlier? Should I never eat carbs again? And then your confidence drops. So let's talk about why we compare, how it messes with our heads, and what to do instead. Because I promise you there is a better way. So comparison can sneak in anywhere. Obviously social media, but it's not just that. It's at work when your coworker is telling you about her aunt who drank apple cider vinegar every day and cured her diabetes. And it's, the friends who are living this type 2 life with you, but, they're having drastically different results. I just quit carbs and I got off all my meds. Or reading about someone who is posting about how they reverse their diabetes naturally, right? It's the can you eat that comments, all of those things get into your head and you start comparing your progress to someone else's. But here's the thing. Sometimes the comparison doesn't even come from other people. It comes from ourselves, comparing ourselves to our former selves. Like, I used to be so much better at exercise. Why am I so lazy? Why was I more motivated last summer? We compare across timelines, across people, across platforms, and it becomes this weird, competition that we had no intention of ever signing up for. And we start questioning, what am I doing wrong? Why does everyone else seem to have it together and I don't? And I want you to know, I don't think that this comparison thing is about being shallow or being insecure. I think comparison is a pretty human thing. It's wired into our brains. And so I don't think it's such a big leap that we would compare ourselves because it helps us to understand where we fit and what's normal and what's not normal and what's expected. But diabetes is such a roller coaster. It's not the kind of thing where we're all graded equally. P.S. You're not really graded. So it's normal to look around and see what everyone else is doing. We're trying to learn how to survive in this diagnosis, and we really don't have a whole lot to go off of except our lived experience, okay? We get that pamphlet when we're diagnosed, and it's like, okay, go figure it out. So, of course, we're going to look around. But here's the deal. Diabetes is confusing, and it's inconsistent, and it's full of gray areas. So when we try to compare our journey to someone else's, there's so many factors that it's really difficult to compare apples to apples here. And with diabetes, there's no clear finish line. This is a forever type of management. We're always going to be dealing with this. Even the people who have reversed or cured, I hate that word, their diabetes, they never get to stop the management part. Because if they stop all those healthy habits that got them there, guess what? Diabetes is just laying there waiting for that. and it's going to come right back. Here's why comparing ourselves to others is such a problem. Have you ever heard that quote that says something like, never measure your progress using someone else's ruler, or never compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20, that kind of thing? We don't know what someone else is dealing with. You don't see that their highlight reel on Instagram is just that. You don't see that struggle that they have behind the scenes, okay? You don't see that maybe they had access to, you know, a personal trainer or a functional medicine team, or they're in a different season of life than you and don't have a full-time job, or they don't have childcare responsibilities, and their timeline is different. You don't know if someone who is sharing the highlight reel is actually struggling silently, and maybe they're battling burnout or guilt or food shame or high numbers, but they're only sharing the good stuff. Okay? You don't see the skipped meals or the binges or the doctor appointment that left them in tears. So while you're comparing yourself to their highlight reel, you're actually missing out on recognizing all the things that you're doing well. So you're feeding that shame and guilt monster, and that doesn't help you heal. It doesn't help you grow. It doesn't help your diabetes management. It just keeps you stuck. I founded Sugar Mama Strong 9 years ago, and the main goal was to provide a safe, supportive place for people to have accountability, because it was something that I needed at that time in my life. I was not taking very good care of myself when it came to my diabetes management. And so I decided that we would have a daily post every day where we would share our numbers. And I was so shaky in how I thought a leader of a diabetes support community should show up. And in those early days, when I didn't feel like my numbers measured up to what I thought it meant to lead a group like that, I would lie. I would lie and pretend my numbers were perfect. I felt this insane pressure to be this perfect example of what diabetes management looked like and what a leader of a diabetes support community looked like. And then I realized that the accountability of sharing my numbers was for me. It wasn't to look a certain way to anybody else. And I had to come to terms with sharing the good, the bad, and the ugly, and being authentic when it came to my story. And being okay that my journey looked different from someone else's. That, yeah, my numbers were high in the morning. Sometimes they're still high in the morning. But that's okay, because that is what I am dealing with. And so I needed to just let go of the expectations that I put on myself. It wasn't the community that was doing that. It was me. Nobody in there, hopefully, if you're listening, I'm talking to you. Nobody in there expects me to be perfect, but they do expect me to be honest. And that is something that I learned way in the beginning, that being honest about my story, my numbers, my management, my experiences made me a good leader of that group. It made me feel more liberated. And I just learned to show up for myself and not worry about what other people would think of my numbers or my choices or what was on my plate or how often I ate carbs. Like, I just had to show up as me, flawed and all. When you let go of those expectations, it is a very freeing feeling. Okay? Here's the thing. Peace, true peace when it comes to your diabetes management choices. Peace is part of progress. Okay? And that's not just something that you're going to write on a Post-it note and stick it on the refrigerator because it sounds good. Okay? It's biology. We know that stress raises our blood sugar. We know that shame wears us out. It is exhausting. And comparing yourself literally steals the energy you could have spent taking care of yourself. I don't need to know your exact situation to know that you are not behind, you are not failing because you got different results, and your path isn't wrong just because it doesn't look like theirs or like mine. So what do we do instead? What do we do instead of spiraling into that comparison trap? We need to ask ourselves better questions. What's working for me right now, and how can I lean into that more? What's one way I've supported my body this week that I can actually celebrate? What season am I in, and what's realistic for me right now? And what can I let go of that's not helping me? And another one, and this one is so important. Who actually supports me in feeling empowered with my diagnosis, and who makes me feel like I'm failing? Because that matters too, okay? And how can I trust myself a little bit more? These are the questions we need to ask ourselves, not why am I not getting the results that he or she is getting? Here's what helped me most when I was deep in that, why can't I get it together like so-and-so? Okay, here's what helped me crawl out of that hole. I started muting people or blocking people or unfollowing people who triggered those kind of shame feelings. Even the people that I originally thought were inspiring, unfollowed them. Because if their version of inspiration made me feel like crap, there's no point in following them. I don't want to leave someone else's page feeling like garbage, okay? I also stopped using my A1C as the sole metric of success. I started tracking how I felt, my mood, my energy level, how steady I felt after meals, how I slept, because all of those things matter just as much as the numbers on your lab work, okay? I also started tracking my wins, and not just the big ones, the small ones too. So did I take my meds all week? Win. Did I say no to something that was going to burn me out? Win. Did I not rip off my Dexcom and throw it out the window when I had high and low alarms all night? Also a win, okay? And I reminded myself that there is not a deadline here. Okay, this is my life, my body, my peace, my pace, and my progress. And here is such a huge, eye-opening piece of wisdom for you. I started celebrating other people's wins without turning them into my failures. I'm going to say that one more time for you. I started celebrating other people's wins without turning them into my failures. That's when things shifted for me. That's when peace started to really feel possible when it came to my diabetes management. Just because someone else reversed or got off meds or lost 50 pounds, that doesn't take away from what I am doing over here. I can be happy for them and not feel like I'm doing something wrong. Okay? Here's a reminder for you. Just because someone else is sprinting doesn't mean that your walk isn't valid. When someone posts a highlight reel, it doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. You're not supposed to be copying someone else. You're supposed to own your story. And finally, you guys, you do not need to prove anything to anyone today. You're allowed to make progress without talking about it. You can keep working on your health in a way that feels right for you, even if no one sees it. Because this is your life. It's not a performance. You do you. Blinders on. And stay focused on your journey and what's working for you. If this episode hit home, do me a favor. Follow Sick of Pricks on your favorite podcast platform and share this with someone who's been hard on themselves lately. Keep going. Keep questioning the BS. Keep giving yourself credit where it's due. You're doing better than you think. And if no one's told you today, I see you and I'm proud of you. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.